Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 19th of July 2022. So let us quickly look into the articles that we are going to have a discussion on. So we are going to discuss these articles one by one. The first article is related to growth and welfare. So this article is related to Indian economy, and here we are going to talk about different narratives related to freebies which are being promised during the election time. And apart from this, the second topic is related to sharing power with the next generations. So this article is talking about intergenerational justice. So we are going to understand about how do we transfer justice, intergenerational justice, okay, in terms of intergenerational justice within one country, across the countries in the world. So this article has multiple connotation. One of the thing is like it is related to social justice. Second thing, it is also related to international relations. We are going to discuss about all these topics in this article itself. Apart from this, the next topic for discussion is India's climate imperative. So in this article we are going to understand about climate related risks, disasters, and the steps that Indian government and India has been taking. So this article is relevant from environment and ecology perspective, and it is important for GS paper 3 of the mains exam. Apart from this, the next topic that we are going to discuss is minority status in India is state dependent, and it was said by the Supreme Court of India. So we are going to discuss about like what was the viewpoint of the Supreme Court of India when it comes to deciding like who is a minority and who is not a minority. So this particular case is relevant from multiple viewpoints related to social justice and Indian polity. Okay. Apart from this, the next topic is related to cryptocurrency. We are going to discuss about crypto law needs global teamwork. So this was said by the Finance Minister of India. So we are going to understand about like what is all about cryptocurrency, like why there is a difficulty in international collaboration when it comes to regulating the cryptocurrencies. Okay, so let us start the discussion. Let us look into the first topic now. Okay, so this first topic is welfare, like growth and welfare. So populism might mean different things to different people at different times. Okay, so this is the crux of the article. It says populism might mean different things to different people at different times. So what do we mean by populism? So what has happened recently, the Prime Minister of India, he has visited multiple places, and in his visit at multiple places he has discussed about various parties, various politicians making announcements that they are going to give one or other freebies, and they are making election promises. And so Prime Minister of India is of the opinion that like these promises are unsustainable in nature. Okay, and why the politicians or political parties are doing it? They are doing it just for garnering the votes of the people. And he is of the opinion that like why people are doing it, because people want to take away the discussion from the real issue of economic growth and generation of employment. So we are going to discuss about it, like what was the viewpoint. So what has happened, the Prime Minister of India has said that it was easy to make populist promises and collect votes through shortcut methods. So Prime Minister says that the parties or politicians are making promises that are very populist. Okay, but these are shortcut means to garner votes. And apart from this, Prime Minister of India has said that he added flourish to the argument by linking populist proclivity to a sweet dish and termed it as revari culture. Okay, so what is proclivity? Proclivity means when you have money and you are utilizing it unthoughtfully. Okay, means like wastage of money. Okay, some action, something that is done without giving due thought process in that thing. Okay, so the Prime Minister has said this is this populist proclivity is like a revari culture, because he has recently visited there. And Prime Minister said that development as justice. He said like, like when true development happens, it is imparting justice, to the people. So he has, given examples also that like creating expressways, power projects, providing gas, toilets, houses in backward areas such as Bundelkhand, were all leading to true social justice. Okay, so this was like, this was the meaning that was conveyed by the Prime Minister of India, that like how do we provide true social justice to the people. Apart from this, he was challenging the more commonly understood meaning of social justice in the heartland, which is the expansion of rights defined in terms of caste groups. So Prime Minister of India has also cautioned that like, many a times like political parties are taking the populist measures. Populist measures means like everybody has a different definition of, like welfare, everybody has a different connotation of it. So one group of people may think like, like a government is doing good if it is doing good for their community only. Okay, if it is doing good for a particular caste or so. So Prime Minister of India is of the opinion, like, he is of the opinion that populism might mean different things to different people at different times. So like, so people have a different connotation about populism, they understand it differently. It means, different things to different set of people in various regions, and at the same time, it also varies across time frame. Okay, so this was the thing, and he said that India is far behind the standards of social security that advanced capitalist democracies guarantee to their citizens. Okay, so after reading this article, you will be understanding like, what are the populist measures that different governments or different parties have taken, and like why not all those populist measures or not all those measures are good for the nation, good for building the nation. Okay, and like what should be the rational approach, right? You need to ponder upon it, you need to think more on it, so that like you can come to a conclusion, you can come to a deciding factor, like, these are the things that are actually rational, that are working, and these are the things that are solely done to garner the votes of the majority people, right? So after this, let us take another article. It says sharing power with the next generations. This article is very important. This is very important because in this article, the author raises multiple questions related to multiple dimensions of life. It talks about, why do we need to share power with the next generation? Why do we need, intergenerational justice, right? What kind of world, do we want to leave for our grandchildren to come, right? And like, is there any responsibility of the developed countries towards the developing countries? Okay, so we are going to discuss all of it in this article. So here the author says a new idea of intergenerational justice is gaining traction as a better way of producing a more equitable global order. Okay, so they are talking about a more equitable global order. Equitable means like where different countries have like similar standing on world issues, right? As of now, what we see, like, the world is divided in multiple arenas related to multiple issues, right? So when it comes to, power, right, showing of power, so in that case, like, there are some developed countries, for example, the United States of America on one side, Russia on the other side, China is like, on the next side. So we are now seeing a multipolar world, right? But like, there are certain key dimensions, there are certain things that are still needs to be addressed. Okay, there are multiple things that still needs to be addressed. So here the author starts by saying that after the horrific destruction in the 20th century in two world wars, okay, in 20th century means like in 1914 to 19 we had World War I, then 1942 onward we had World War II. So in 20th century we had two world wars, and in those world wars, like those countries who have participated, they have seen mutual destruction of their wealth, of their property, and they have lost lives. So after then, those countries that emerged as winners in the war, they have come up with two sets of different institutions, so that they can end this era of war. They have promised themselves that we never again want any such war situations. So they have created two new institutions. What were those institutions? One of the institution is United Nations, okay, which is headquartered in New York. And apart from this, they have Bretton Woods institution. Bretton Woods institution includes the World Bank on one side and the International Monetary Fund on the other side. This is this is headquartered in the Washington DC, okay. So these two great institutions, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, they are located in Washington. So here we are seeing that majority of these institutions that have emerged, they are located in the United States of America. So the western part of the world, they have won the war. But the thing is, these institutions, when these institutions were created, although it was said these institutions are democratic, but the thing is, the real power was retained by the winners in the world war, okay. If I talk about the United Nations organization, the United Nations organization is said to have real power with its United Nations Security Council. And United Nations Security Council has 15 member countries, right? 10 non-permanent members and 5 permanent members. So the winners, they have, got permanent membership for themselves, okay? So the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, they hold the real power. Apart from this, if we talk about World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, okay, so they are, dominated by the United States and Europe. And these are the, countries who appoint their own head, okay, they appoint their own at the top, okay, they appoint their own head of these organizations in the top. If we talk about United Nations General Assembly, so it is theoretically democratic, but the real power, the power of guns and money, is controlled by the Security Council and Washington institutions, okay, Security Councils and World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, okay. When we talk about the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is in short known as NATO, NATO is back in the picture to keep the center of gravity of global power in the West, okay. So NATO, it is a security alliance, it is a security grouping of those countries, that want to safeguard their security interest. And this also keeps the center of power in the western side of the world, okay, the western countries, the Europe and the Americas, okay, Mexico, North America, Canada, etc. Then there is a fresh concept also, okay, the power struggle has heated up in and around Ukraine, camouflaged as an ideological war between democracies and dictators, okay. So what has happened, new ideas of global governance has come in place, okay. Now people are talking about intergenerational justice, okay. Now people are talking about intergenerational justice, justice for the next generation to come, okay. So how do we make it sure that next generation that is going to come, they are going to get justice, okay. So to assure that thing, so the old people means the people who are ruling the world now, the older generation have to talk with the newer generation, they have to consult them before taking any decision that impacts the newer generation, okay. So that's how we can assure intergenerational justice. Apart from this article also talks about that the developed countries, okay, the world leadership should not only rest with the developed countries, it should rotate among the developing countries, among underdeveloped countries also. So underdeveloped, least developed, developing countries should also be given the chair of leadership. They should be given the opportunity to lead the world, okay. So that's how the author is saying that that's how we can address the issue related to intergenerational justice. It says the intergenerational justice is gaining traction as a better way of producing a more equitable global order and hopefully arresting mankind's breakneck destruction of the planet despite or because of great advances in the technologies. Okay. So now here the answer to the rhetorical question, that is what sort of world we want to leave for our grandchildren, okay, what type of world we want to leave for our grandchildren. So here the author is saying it is to ask them what sort of world they want to live in. Okay. So in that case, like, you know, if we want to live a kind of world to our grandchildren, so it is better that we should ask them that what kind of world they want for themselves. Okay. So this is the thing, this is means like we need to consult with them, we need to discuss them, and we need to know like what are their wants, what are their needs, like what kind of world they want for themselves, right? However, elders listening to youth will not be enough. Youth must also be given charge of producing the world they want to live in. Okay. So here they are saying like only consulting with the youth is not sufficient, like youth should be given the leadership role, they should be given the charge to create the world that they want to, you know, live in. So this is the thing. After this, like we are going to discuss a lot in this article. So this article is an eye opener for many of us, and it is going to, you know, tell us like, you know, what are the different viewpoints around intergenerational justice. Okay. So the author is saying that the time is running out. So whenever I mean policy makers, thinkers, they are thinking of, you know, coming up with new kind of sets of, you know, changes in the world. So they always relate that like, you know, world can be molded towards a betterment. Okay. World can be taken to a new height only through STEM. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering and math education. Okay. So they are saying like, you know, the modern approach is to progress disseminated widely through STEM, which is, you know, science, technology, engineering and mathematics education, is to extract resources from the planet to create new products for human benefit, and then to find new technological approaches to repair the damage caused to the planet by those technologies. Okay. So as of now, what is happening? People are utilizing the you know, science, like, you know, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, to extract the resources from the world, to extract the resources from the planet for the betterment of the human lives. And after then, like, you know, these technologies themselves create new problems. So now they are again trying to find out, you know, those those things, I mean like those ideas that are going to address the problems that are created by STEM. Okay. So thus scientific technology goes round in circles. So the author is saying that scientific technology, it goes rounds in circle. In first round, we extracted the resources from the planet, we started using it for the betterment of the human life. But the thing is like this extraction and the process of, you know, creating new materials or using the new materials has created another dimension of problems. So we are trying to sort out those problems also now. Okay. So this is creating a cycle. Okay. This is creating a scientific cycle. Okay. Each round, owners of technology become wealthier. Okay. On each round, what happens? On each round, first round, extraction of the thing, extraction of material from the earth. So the owners of technology, they were becoming wealthier. In the second round also, owners of technology are going to be wealthier. Okay. So the people suffering the harm from the relentless growth of economies are advised to be patient until the size of their pie produced is large enough to share with them. Okay. So time is running out, the climate is heating up, inequalities are growing, people are losing their patience, new ways must be found to solve complex global problems. Okay. So the author has written beautifully, you know, in these lines, like, you know, what should be done to solve the complex global problems. Apart from this, here the author is saying that new theory of change. The prevalent scientific theory of change is both outside in and top down. Okay. So like, you know, so now here, like, how do we solve a problem? So like when we want to solve a problem, like, you know, we need to see that problem from outside. Okay. We need to see that problem from outside and to see it inside. Only then we'll be able to understand the problem and we'll be able to solve it. But what happens apart from this? like there are top down approaches as well. Top down means like people like who are at the top level, for example the central government, or for example the top leaders, okay. So they are going to bring those policy changes that are going to be implemented at the ground level through the like lower level staffs, okay. So that is top down approach, okay. And scientific experts try to be objective about the systems they study by placing their minds outside the systems, okay. So so these are different approaches. So the author has given example of engineers, okay. So what engineers do, they look for levers within the system they can pull to improve the efficiency and increase outputs, okay. So these are the things. Apart from this, when we talk about global governance, okay, so when we talk about the global approach to governance is outside in and also top down. Many disciplines must be brought together to understand the social, economic and physical facets of complex issues such as climate change. Moreover, stakeholders with conflicting needs must be aligned, okay. So those stakeholders, they have conflicting needs. One stakeholder, for example, like if I talk about the Western Ghats, so one sort of stakeholders, they are pro-development. They are talking about like how we develop more structures for the betterment of human lives. And on the other side, like we have those peoples, like who are pro-environment, who are environmentalists. They are thinking about safeguarding the interest of the nature. They are thinking about maintaining the ecological like sanctity, or like ecological, what we say, like balance. So the thing is, these are the people with conflicting, okay, these are the people with like conflicting ideas. They have they have ideas of development in through different viewpoints. So we have to bring all of them together. We need to make them discuss, okay, to find out the finer ways, to find out the best ways to address those issues. Now here the author is saying that this is the standard model of hierarchical organization which is applied in the corporate sector, in national governments, in international development organizations too, okay. So the problem is this, the wrong approach of solving global complex problems, okay. So when we talk about global complex problems, like the world is having complex problems, they are having huge number of problems, okay. So now like we cannot have one size fits all approach, okay. So one size does not fit all, okay. So we cannot have that approach now. We need to have separate approaches for separate problems, and stakeholders must be brought together so that like they can ponder about, they can think more, they can share their viewpoints, their ideas about solving the problems. So a new configuration, the G7 was formed. So here the author is again giving us an example of G7. So like when G7 was formed, so like that time like there was representation from the United States of America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan and Italy, okay. They formed the G6. Later on they have invited Russia to participate in it. Russia has joined, but what has happened, soon after Russia has annexed Crimea, okay, from Ukraine, okay. Soon after it has annexed Crimea, Russia was expelled out of this particular organization. And if we talk about the second largest economy in the world, the China, is still not a part of it, okay. So there are complex problems of complex nature, all of that needs to be addressed, okay. All of that needs to be addressed in a different manner, okay. For that stakeholders must be brought together. So here the author is also saying that power must shift between generations to create more equitable global order. This line is very important. It says that power must shift between generations to create a more equitable global order. Less than 10% of the world's citizens and less than 6% of the world's children below 10 years are in the G7. Power must shift within economies from older persons to youth. Globally, it must shift from older, so-called the advanced countries to younger or emerging economies. So they are saying like the power should shift from the developed countries to the developing countries or emerging countries, or like advanced economies to emerging economies. The G7, the Security Council, must invite the rest to find new solutions to global problems. Okay. So here the author is also saying that we need to recycle this wisdom. Okay. It says intergenerational dialogue is imperative. Okay. So we cannot ignore the importance of intergenerational dialogue. Okay. So intergenerational dialogue must be allowed to happen, right? And apart from this, the author is also saying that while power must shift towards the younger generations and emerging economies, all generations and countries must work together. Okay, power can shift, but like all should work together towards prosperity, towards building peace and all. All are stages in a larger process of evolution. Okay, so all means like all means like like advanced economies, emerging economies, all are in the process of evolution. They are in different stages. All must listen to others' aspirations and must understand others' wisdom. Emerging economies must not be arrogantly considered in the colonial legacy as the white man's burden. Okay, so like there is a viewpoint that the white man, or like the developed economies, they themselves feel like that we have developed ourselves, but now it is put as a burden on us to help the emerging nations, to help the other countries also. Okay, so this particular narrative has to be has to be sidelined as of now. So author is saying that many native communities have not yet lost their wisdom of living within natural systems and living as families and communities. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, they list 17 complex global problems, and at the same time they say how those problems can be tackled. Okay, these problems, these goals, okay, these goals are adopted by majority of the countries in the world, and they are on the path of addressing them by the year of 2030. So they appear in different forms everywhere in the world. Certainly, centrally managed organizations cannot solve such problems. Local system solutions cooperatively implemented within their communities by old and young persons together are the way to solve these global systemic problems. Now with this, let us talk about another topic. So the last topic was very interesting. So we have understood about the concept of intergenerational justice. Okay. Now let us talk about another topic. This topic is also equally important. This is very important topic. So this topic says India's climate imperative. Okay. It says for public pressure to drive climate action, we need to consider climate catastrophes as largely man-made. Okay. So what has happened? I mean, during the year 2020 and 2021, we were impacted by COVID-19. Okay, so COVID-19 has disrupted the global order for around 2 years. I mean, the entire humanity, the entire planet, they were looking for solutions how to address this particular problem. But if we talk about if COVID-19 was not there, let's consider a hypothetical situation that world is going in the normal way that it has been going without any pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. So in the year of 2021, we might have witnessed India as a country that has had larger number of catastrophes, natural disasters, and most of these disasters are attributed to man-made disasters, because human beings have contributed a large in changing the global warming, pattern, and also contributing to global warming. So here in this article, the author has highlighted this thing that majority of the environmental problems that we are facing today is because of human action. It because of anthropogenic causes. Okay, so author also highlights that these problems that are arising, although many communities are there around the world, in India also, they have a tendency of attributing these things to the God, that this is the wrath of the mother earth, This is the wrath of the God. But the thing is, like, if we go by scientific, rationality, so we will be able to understand that, like, these are not, what we say, these are not, devoid of human action. The humans have, created the problems for themselves. Okay, these are anthropogenic causes. These are, like, problems that are caused by man-made actions. These are problems caused by, actions, taken by human beings themselves. So here the author has listed about, those catastrophes, those disasters. For example, the author has said that the heat wave has scorched, these states, for example, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat and Delhi this year. Apart from this, the author is also listing torrential downpours. Torrential downpours means like heavy rainfall, right? A concentrated rainfall in a some, in a specific region. Apart from this, super cyclone Amphan that has battered the West Bengal and Odisha in 2020. These are symbols of man-made climate change. Okay, the author is saying these are symbols of man-made climate change. But India, like elsewhere, still attributes these catastrophes to the wrath of Mother Nature. Okay. Apart from this, the author highlights that temperature over the Indian Ocean have risen by over 1 degree centigrade since 1950s. Increasing extreme weather events. Okay. India is the 4th worst hit in climate migration. Heat waves in India have claimed an estimated 17,000 lives in since 1970. Okay, so like we have multiple levels of disasters. We have heat waves, we have cyclones, we have other kind of natural disasters. But these disasters are largely because of man-made causes. These are because of anthropogenic effects. Okay, so India needs a two-part approach. We need two-part approach. One, to adapt to the climate impacts by building resilience against weather extremes. Okay, first of all, like we need to adapt ourselves. We need to adapt our structures. We need to adapt our technologies so that, like, whatever changes has happened, we can withstand those changes so that, like, we and our structures are resilient towards those changes. Apart from this, to mitigate environmental destruction, okay, to prevent climate change from becoming more lethal. Okay, so what we can do, we can mitigate means we can reduce the environmental destruction and we can prevent the climate change from becoming more lethal. Okay, so we need to adopt those measures, we need to adopt those technologies that help us alleviate the problem of environmental changes. Okay, by reducing the, by preventing the climate change from happening, okay, from now. Apart from this, the author has also talked about climate resilience in this article. Okay, what do we mean by climate resilience? Okay, climate resilience means although the global warming has, reached to a very high level, but still, like, we can build our resilience. We can, the human beings are, trying to be adaptive to this situation. But like we also need to create those natural structures that are going to, help us to survive in this situation. And also we need to plant more trees. We need to go for afforestation. We need to go for, different. We need to take multiple measures that are pro-environment, that are going to help the environment. Okay. So now here the author is saying that extreme heat waves hit swaths of India. Heat waves are aggravated by deforestation and land degradation. Okay, so when deforestation and land degradation happens, heat waves rise, okay, to a greater extent, which also exacerbate fires. Okay, so this leads to increasing in the incidences of fires. Like, we have seen forest fires in multiple areas in India and elsewhere. Apart from this, agriculture being water intensive does not do well in heat wave prone areas. Okay, our solution is to promote agricultural practices which are not water intensive and support afforestation that has a salutary effect on warming. Financial transfers can be targeted to help farmers plant trees and buy equipment, for example, for drip irrigation that reduces heavy water usage. Insurance schemes can transfer some of the risk of extreme heat by industrial, construction and agricultural workers to insurers. Apart from this, climate resilient agriculture calls for diversification. For example, the cultivation of multiple crops on the same farm. There will need to be more localized food production. Weather-based crop insurance would help. Floods and storms are worsened by vast sea ingress and coastline erosion in the low-lying areas in the south. Okay, so here the author has listed out multiple steps that can be taken. The author has listed out those steps that can be taken to mitigate the effect of environmental problems. Okay, apart from this, environmental impact assessment must be made mandatory, okay, for commercial projects. Okay, so here the author is also giving example of steps taken by Kerala. So the author is saying Kerala has some flood resistant houses constructed on pillars. Communities can be built round shaped houses considering optimum aerodynamic orientation to reduce the strength of the winds. Okay, apart from this, it is also, the author has also mentioned about arresting runaway climate change. Okay, so what do we mean by runaway climate change? Let us understand this thing. Okay, adaptation alone will not slow environmental damages if the warming of the sea level temperature is not confronted. Okay, leading emitters including India must move away from fossil fuel. Okay, so the author is saying we should stop using fossil fuels, or we should reduce the usage of fossil fuels including India. Okay, globally, like all countries must do it, India should also do it. Okay, so but climate mitigation everywhere is painfully slow because of a lack of political will. The author is attributing the problem to political will, that politicians or there is no political will to reduce the effect of climate change. Okay, India has made slow progress in choosing 2070 as its target for net zero emissions. Apart from this, meanwhile, a big part of climate action lies in protecting and expanding forest coverage. Regulation needs to be tightened and enforced to ensure forest protection while acquiring land. India gains from being part of Glasgow Declaration on Forest Protection that 141 countries signed in 2021. Okay, so the thing is, here the author has mentioned multiple steps that are being taken, okay, that are being taken to address the effect of climate change. Okay, so it says India's share in disaster management should be raised to 2.5% of GDP. Okay, so we need to increase the funding for disaster management by 2.5% of GDP. Climate finance is most suited for large-scale global funding from World Bank, the International Monetary Fund and the Asian Development Bank. Okay, so author is suggesting that to finance the activities related to climate change, we can take the help of global institutions, the big financial institutions like the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund and the Asian Development Bank. If we take their help, we will be able to get our projects funded from abroad. So in that case, we can move faster towards addressing the issues of climate change. With this, let us move to the next topic. This topic is also very important. Why important? Because this is relevant with Indian polity and social justice. So what has recently happened, like the Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court of India was hearing a case, and in that case the Supreme Court of India has said that minority status in India is state dependent. Why it is state dependent? Let us understand this particular thing. Okay, what is happening now, for example, if we talk about the central list, in the central list some of the communities like Muslims, Sikhs, Parsis, okay, Buddhists, Jains, these are mentioned as minorities. Okay, others are in majority. Okay, why minority? Because they are less in number. Okay, when we talk about the total composition of the population, so they are less in number. So minority in terms of population count. Apart from this, we also have minority in terms of religious beliefs. So there are some communities who believe in certain religion, others are in different religious thing. So religious minority, then linguistic minority. We have religious minority, linguistic minorities also. For example, like there are people, for example, in the northern part of India, majority of the people can speak English, okay, can speak Hindi. So they are linguistic majority. But like at the same time, some people are speaking a particular set of language, and there are very less number of people speaking that language. So we have linguistic minority also. But here what has happened, like there was a case filed, okay, there was a case filed, and this case actually belongs to Article 29 and 30 of the Constitution of India. Article 29 and 30 form part of the fundamental rights, okay. Article 29 and 30 are part of fundamental rights, and these two articles actually give rights to the minority community in managing the affairs related to educational institutions for themselves, okay. Minority communities can administer, they can manage, they can run minority educational institutions, okay. So the Supreme Court was hearing a case. In that case, what has happened, like the petitioner, okay, so one of the petitioner, they were of the opinion that, like although Hindus are majority in India overall, but like in some of the states they are in minority, okay. Why they are in minority? Because in those states, let's consider other religious people are in what we say are majority. So, and in the state list there is no notification that recognizes them as minority. So for example, here what has happened, one of the Supreme Court judge, UU Lalit, okay, one of the Supreme Court judge, his name is UU Lalit, he has given a statement, okay. Let us read his statement, what he has actually said about it. So every person in this country, UU Lalit has said that every person in this country can be a minority. I can be a minority outside my state, Maharashtra. Similarly, a Kannada speaking person may be in minority in states other than Kannada. Every person in this country can answer this description. So here the Supreme Court also said that every person in India can be a minority in one state or the other. Minority status of religious or linguistic communities is state dependent, okay. So this was the observation that was made by the Supreme Court of India, okay. So let us discuss about like what was the case, okay, what was the case. So the case was related to a Mathura resident, he was Devki Nandan Thakur, okay. So Supreme Court was hearing a petition filed by this person, and he complained that followers of Judaism, Bahaism, Hinduism, who are the real minorities in Ladakh, Mizoram, Lakshadweep, Kashmir, Nagaland, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Punjab, Manipur, cannot establish and administer educational institutions of their choice because of non-identification of minority at the state level. So here the author is, author is talking about the rights of, like followers of Judaism, Bahaism, Hinduism, okay. So these are what we say religious believers of a particular religion. So they are minorities, they are real minorities in these states. For example, Ladakh, Mizoram, Lakshadweep, Kashmir, Nagaland, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Punjab and Manipur. And the author said that they cannot establish and administer educational institutions of their choice because of non-identification of minority at the state level, okay. At the state level they are not identified as minority. So that's why they cannot establish the institution. But the thing is, the Supreme Court of India, I mean so court has indicated, they have asked a question that the court indicated that a religious or linguistic community which is a minority in a particular state can inherently claim protection and the right to administer and run its own educational institution under Articles 29 and 30 of the Constitution. The court asked whether a specific notification was required, okay. So court asked like whether they need a specific notification from the state to be recognized as a minority, okay. This question from the bench came in, means like they were this thing. So the petition has argued that the recognition of Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Parsis nationally by the center as minorities ignored the fact that the religious communities such as Hindus were socially, economically and politically non-dominant and numerically inferior in several states. Okay. So this is the thing, I mean like this is related to status of minority. That like status, the central government has notified some believers of particular religion as minority, but the thing is like there are like what we say compositional differences in different states. Okay. And so these states have not recognized others as minorities in their states. Okay. So this is the thing. Apart from this, let us talk about another topic. This is panel on MSP. Okay, there was a panel on MSP, natural farming setup. Okay, so MSP stands for minimum support price. Okay, panel on MSP, natural farming setup. So recently what has happened, like so we will discuss about this particular article in detail. So Samyukt Kisan Morcha says it will decide soon on the government's offer to be part of the committee. So recently what has happened, like there were three laws for the farmers that were brought by the central government. And so after huge protest by farmers union and different farmers like across the country, the central government of India have removed all the three legislations. And while removing those legislations, the Prime Minister of India has assured that like it is going the central government is soon going to form a committee, and this particular committee is going to address the issue of minimum support price. Okay, this committee would be constituted to promote zero budget natural farming, to change crop patterns keeping in mind the changing needs of the country, and to make MSP more effective and transparent. Okay, so this was the objective, this was the viewpoint of the Prime Minister of India while discussing about this thing. So recently the central government has finally constituted the committee, and it is headed by the former Union Agriculture Secretary Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. So this particular committee will look into the issue of minimum support price for agricultural produce as promised by the Samyukt Kisan Morcha. Okay, as promised to the Samyukt Kisan Morcha. The panel has 3 unfilled posts of representatives of the SKM, which will be filled as and when the center receives the recommendation from the umbrella body. Now let us discuss, so now we have understood that like central government has created, what it has done, the central government has created this particular thing. It has created a body, okay, it has created a body of, it has created a committee. And this committee is going to look after the issue of this particular thing, okay, after the issue of farmers' welfare. And this particular committee has lot of people, like various secretaries from multiple departments of the government of India, okay, various secretaries. So their names are mentioned. There are members of the Niti Aayog also. The secretaries of the Department of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare, Agricultural Research, so they are all going to be a part of this. So as of now, the Samyukt Kisan Morcha, what the Samyukt Kisan Morcha has done, this particular Morcha has not yet decided the persons that they are going to appoint in this particular committee. Okay, so this is the thing. So this is just this thing to bring to the notion that like a committee has been formed. So now let us discuss the last topic. This is the last topic for the day, and we are going to discuss it in detail. Okay. So crypto law needs global teamwork. Okay. So recently the Finance Minister of India has notified that like bringing any law related to regulation of cryptocurrency, okay, is not easy. We need a global teamwork. I mean like different countries should come together, and like they should not only come together, but at the same time they should have this common framework in mind that they want to regulate this thing, because the Finance Minister of India has said that cryptocurrencies are by definition borderless, and require international collaboration to prevent regulatory arbitrage. Okay. And so cryptocurrencies are still are not recommended by the Reserve Bank of India also, because like any currency that is legal, that has to be administered by the central financial institution of that particular country. In case of India, it is the Reserve Bank of India. Okay, so Reserve Bank of India has earlier notified to the central government that we cannot allow cryptocurrencies to be legalized in India, because it is going to disrupt the financial stability in the country. Okay, it is going to disrupt financial stability in the country. Okay, so it says that any legislation for regulation or for banning can be effective only after significant international collaboration on evaluation of the risk and benefits and evolution of common taxonomy and standards. The minister's comments assume significance as they suggest a legislation for reining in activity of cryptocurrencies, which had been included in the Parliament's list of businesses for 2 sessions last year, is off the table till a global compact of some form can be formed up. Okay, so here what is happened, although this is listed as a topic for discussion in the previous 2 parliamentary sessions, but the thing is they have not been taken up. Why? Because a global collaboration is needed for this particular project to be implemented, in the sense they have to be implemented globally. So the finance minister of India, she was addressing a question in the Lok Sabha. Okay, she was addressing a question in the Lok Sabha. So in that question, the finance minister of India has mentioned about the opinion of the Reserve Bank of India, that the Reserve Bank of India has itself said that the valuation of cryptocurrency are totally speculative, means it depends on how people are thinking about cryptocurrency. It is not regulated by any central authority. So bringing a legislation on this part will not be effective. Okay, so this is the thing. And in view of the concerns expressed, means even the Reserve Bank of India has also expressed concerns, okay, related to cryptocurrency. It has earlier said it should be banned completely. It was banned, but later on the Supreme Court of India has intervened in this particular case, and Supreme Court of India has allowed the cryptocurrencies to function. But the thing is, as of now, a legislation is needed in that behalf. Okay, so we are yet going to see that how it is going to be turn out. So the thing is as of now, the central government is still doing due diligence related cryptocurrency by seeing the regulation under KYC norms and anti-money laundering activities. So that's all for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending the session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Study General Studies with Lukmaan IAS for building comprehensive knowledge. GS paper 2 and 4 will be taken by S. Ansari and other papers will be covered by renowned faculties. Live classes are as effective as offline classes. The classes are highly interactive in nature. Your doubts and queries will be addressed and there will be dictation of notes. In the last 10 years, Lukmaan IAS has set up a niche in the field of UPSC guidance.